Greetings and welcome to our Elements class. We're on Module 2 booklet, which is all about our relational elements of our spiritual life. We have previously talked about in Module 2.1 about emotional wholeness. Module 2.2 was about communicating with grace. And we are currently on Module 2.3, which is about healthy relationships. Lessons within the Module 2 booklet will be on Module 2.4, which is about faithfulness, Module 2.5, which is about good stewardship, and then we'll study Module 2.6, which will be about our alignment and working under God's authority, and then after that we'll start Module 3. Last week in Module 2.3, we studied Part 2 about the enduring power of love, which was on page 28 of your study guides. Today we'll be studying Part 3, Boundaries for Safe Relationships. Let's go to page 29 and we'll turn there to go to the opening statement, our focus statement. It says this: not every relationship should be fostered in our life. Having love for others does not mean allowing them to hurt or use us. As we seek God for wisdom and compassion, we learn to set healthy boundaries with people who are self-centered or seek their own good. So it's a great opening statement. It lets us know that as Christians, we don't have to be, a doormat for people to continuously walk on, but we need boundaries for safe relationships. We're going to go to Proverbs 27 and 12 and then answer some questions on page 29. Proverbs 27 and 12 says, a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. So question number one, what will the wise do when confronted with a dangerous situation? Well, they see it coming before it becomes dangerous. They prepare for it. They realize there's a connection between today and tomorrow. And so they use today to prepare for the challenges of tomorrow. They have foresight and they prepare for upcoming evil or affliction or a bad moral outcome. This is a wise and sensible man. Question number two, what types of situation would be considered dangerous? Well, when a person is around another person who's always out of control, they are angry or frustrated with themselves and seek to harm others. Someone who is malicious in words or physical expression. For instance, David escaped from King Saul several times. Well, why was that? Well, because David could foresee what Saul intended to do to him. In our modern world, there are many dangers out there that are physical, emotional, spiritual, and we need to cultivate an awareness to these evils so that we will be able to avoid them or at least protect ourselves in some way from them. You might say that we need to develop some spiritual street smarts to navigate our world. Question three, what types of behavior could be considered unhealthy or unsafe? Well, people seeking to harm us physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. These are the things that we have to consider unhealthy and unsafe. Question four, what would be considered a toxic relationship? Well, toxic relationships usually are based on the other person's self-centeredness, their dominance, their control. They're trying to control us in situations, usually in the form of manipulation by force or position or emotion. There's intimidation out there, usually threatening. Or some toxic relationships are from those that are overcritical or extreme competitive type of relationships. All of these relationships can be toxic. One of the important part of having a successful Christian relationships is being able to identify when you see that you need to set boundaries for other people in relationship to you. The more self-aware you are and the more you define and maintain your boundaries, then the greater your capacity is to offer empathy and love and help to others. You might be in a relationship where you are following the guidance of the love chapter in 1 Corinthians 13, verses 1 through 13, but the other person is not. His or her actions may be self-centered or self-focused, which does not create the safe and loving environment that a healthy relationship requires. While each situation is unique and should be navigated prayerfully, boundaries are fundamental means of ensuring healthy relationships. People, both Christian and non-Christian, often misinterpret passages of scriptures that tell us, to turn the other cheek, such as in Matthew 5:39, which says, "But I say unto you that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also." Or they might interpret the scripture passage that says to do good to those that hate you, Luke 6:27. "But I say unto you which hear, love your enemies, do good to them which hate you." Many people, again, both Christian and non-Christian, that interpret and assume these verses require all Christians to allow themselves to be used or manipulated or abused physically or verbally or emotionally or spiritually, or to harm them in some way. According to this kind of perspective, to be a good Christian means that you're to be a doormat for everyone to walk upon. This is simply not true. Jesus never taught or expected his followers to allow themselves to be harmed or stay in a harmful situation. In fact, many examples throughout the Bible reflect the importance of having good boundaries and staying away from those who seek to harm us. As noted in Proverbs 27:12, the prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. As noted in the classic book Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend, boundaries help us determine who is responsible for what behavior. Each person in a relationship must take responsibility for his or her own feelings, attitudes, behaviors, choices, their limits, their thoughts, their values, their talents, and love. We choose these responses regardless of what the other person in the relationship chooses to do. So Jesus was the best example of having good boundaries. He taught and exemplified how to say no to inappropriate behaviors from others. When he was weary, he left the crowds and found rest in solitude. Luke 5, verses 15 through 16 says, "But so much the more went there a fame abroad of him, and great multitudes came together to hear and to be healed by him of their infirmities. And he withdrew himself into the wilderness and prayed." In other words, he took time out to refresh himself and not to be so drained by everybody that he was physically then unable to continue on to help people. So he took time to refresh and strengthen himself. He escaped and did not subject himself to an angry mob attempting to throw him off the cliff. Luke 4:28 through 30 says, "And all they in the synagogue, when they heard these things, were filled with wrath, and rose up and thrust him out of the city, and led him unto the brow of the hill whereon their city was built, that they might cast him down headlong. But he, passing through the midst of them, went on his way." So he escaped. He left the dangerous situation that he was in. He did not indulge the unhealthy behavior of being baited or manipulated, such as when the Pharisees tried to instigate arguments about taxes or the resurrection in Matthew 22, verses 15 through 27. Again, as an example, Jesus didn't let his disciples manipulate him when they wanted Jesus to become a political ruler and create government positions for them in Matthew 20 and verse 23, which reads, "And he saith unto them, Ye shall drink indeed of my cup, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with, but to sit on my right hand and go and on my left is not mine to give, but it is given to them for whom it is prepared of my Father." So he didn't allow others to manipulate his position, his authority, for their own benefits. He didn't even allow his own mother to dictate his direction when she wanted to take him away from ministry for her own agenda in Matthew 12, verses 46 through 50. So Jesus exemplified boundaries in all aspects of his life and ministry. He is an example for us in choosing wisely when entering professional relationships or other relationships with others. Sometimes we will need godly counsel to make decisions about ending friendships or relationships that are unhealthy. And sometimes we need to simply set boundaries, even in long-term relationships. Boundaries that don't allow people to continually abuse us and manipulate us. As Christians, we should strive to love others and to show them the grace and the forgiveness of God through our example. But we need to also remember that we need to be wise about when to withdraw from those who seek to harm us either mentally or emotionally or physically. We've got to be careful to set some boundaries so that we'll be able to take care of ourselves. If we can't take care of ourselves and make sure that we're healthy in all those areas, we won't be able to help others later on. Just like a broken down car can't help anyone get anywhere. And if we are unhealthy spiritually or emotionally, then it's doubtful that, we're going to be of help to anyone else in their spiritual and emotional life either. So there's a responsibility. We're on part 4 now. Let's turn to page 30 in your study guides. We're going to talk about the responsibilities within a relationship. Yeah, we have to set up boundaries, but now there's also responsibilities within relationships. Let's go to the focus statement. Conflict within a relationship is inevitable. We are responsible for investing in our relationships and growing together and enduring difficult times. And so this commitment results in deeply connected bonds and people in our lives who will help us when we're in need. And we need those bonds. We need that deep connections, with others. So Ecclesiastes 4 verses 9 through 12, we're going to read that, and then we're going to answer some questions and then sum up what we've learned thus far. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 12 says, "Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow, but woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. Again, if two lie together, then they have heat, but how can one be warm alone? And if one prevail against them, two shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken." So question 1, what should a person do when a friend falls? That's in verse 10. Well, help them up. It's our obligation as a Christian to help others. Question number 2, what is not easily broken? Verse 12, and that's a threefold cord. So let's look at that threefold cord for a minute. That could be 3 people that are joined together for a common cause. Just like a rope is made up of braided strands or cords. The rope is stronger because all the different strands are woven together, making one strong cord. And just like a rope that has interwoven cords, a husband and wife have an interwoven relationship. And when they join their lives together with God and interweave their lives with God, then it becomes a very strong and hard threefold cord to break. And it is a stronger relationship. As 2 people strive together to get closer to God, then they're joining together with God, and that's a threefold cord that's strong. It just goes to show you that this threefold cord is not easily broken, especially when we involve God in our relationships, and we ought to involve God in all of our relationships to have very strong relationships. Question 4, what are ways we can help our friends and family? Well, we can be there for each other emotionally. What does that mean? Well, it means being there through the good and the bad times. It's about being loving and kind and faithful to others just as God has been to us. I like what Paul says in Romans 12, which tells us how to relate to one another from a Christian perspective. Here's some marks of a true Christian from Romans 12, verses 9 through 21. I'm reading from the NIV version. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Be not proud, but willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord." On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Be not overcome with evil by evil, but overcome evil with good. So a lot of what Paul writes in the scripture context is very much about relationships. It exemplifies what good Christian behavior is concerning others. In closing, I'd like to say, there is assistance and there's support and strength within good and healthy friendships and relationships. So we need to develop them. It's for our own good. However, when we try to go it alone, when we isolate ourselves emotionally from other people, then we are more apt to fail at things. And when we get down and fail at something, then oftentimes it's a hard thing to get back up and then to put forth another effort. But when we have a friend involved, another cord holding on to us, another bind of friendship and encouragement, it helps us then to get back up and try again. Having others who can encourage us will help us to have faith during the hard times. And so their encouragement and help will give us that extra energy, that extra will to get up and keep on trying again. This alliance with our friends and our family is so important in our lives. We all need help and encouragement at different times in our lives. However, there are times that healthy emotional boundaries are broken. All boundaries are crucial for healthy relationships. Such boundaries sometimes involve withdrawing from unsafe people. Outside of those exceptional scenarios, our approach to relationships must be to serve, love, and care for others. The wise writer of Ecclesiastes celebrated the power of connected people and the benefits of relationships. Whether it's spouse, whether it's siblings or church family members or friends from our community or people we work with, these people in our lives can help us in profound ways, and we can help them in the same measure too. It's important that we implement boundaries as needed, but our overarching responsibility is to love others first. We need to have that base operation of love within our hearts, but sometimes that love means we need to implement boundaries also. So the commitment to love is easily stated, but sometimes difficult to live out. We must have a commitment to endure this relationship, to stick it out to the very end, even during times when things aren't, perfect, when things are tough and stretched. And we have to realize that relationships are complex and are challenging. It's not unusual to have tension or difficult spots, even for Christians. Relational boundaries will have to be discussed and set up in our relationship. In addition to our boundaries, we must commit to working through conflict or tough times. That commitment involves the principles of communication we previously discussed. And it means also to empathize with the other person, seeing the relationship through their eyes, trusting their motives, and acting in love and responding to them in love. The results are the creation of friendship and bonds that can't easily be broken. And they will be friendships that we're building up that are going to help us in the end. They'll lift us up when we fall. They'll encourage us when we get low. And so we need to remember, just keep pressing toward these relationships. Keep trying to place God in them and involve yourself with other people, and learn how to love and learn how to lift up and encourage others just as you want them to lift up and encourage you. And so keeping the Lord in our relationships is going to help us to have success in developing these great and loving relationships that will greatly benefit us in our own lives. So I've run out of time for this session. So join me next week as we study Element Module 2.4 on faithfulness. Listen, be blessed this week, and thank you so much for watching.